So good evening, sir. It's wonderful to have you on this particular forum of Excellence Speaks. And this being the 10th episode, I think it is special because you're on board with us today. So I will, of course, put a little note about your background and all that before the video starts. But of course, quite a few people know about you. So like I said, this is just going to be a very short interaction, a panel kind of a thingy for about 15 to 20 minutes, sir. So that's it. So the very first question that I have for you, sir, is that I think your distinguished service with the armed forces is extensive and remarkable. So in your experience, how do you see the way the armed forces fraternity has responded to the pandemic? Now, I just wanted to specify that I'm kind of discussing both the serving officers and men and the veterans. So if you could just give us your input, sir.
Thank you, Unni. It's a great pleasure to be with you. And I must first compliment the fantastic work that Excel and under your leadership is doing. And the focus is obviously the younger generation. I think it's a great contribution. Wonderful,
Thank you so much.
It's a great pleasure to be with you this evening. Okay, with respect to the military will do the job. That's the bottom line. That's our job, and so with respect to serving officers, irrespective of pandemic or no pandemic, you have a duty to perform. We will do the job, and that's our DNA. That's our duty to the Constitution, duty to the country, and there's no ambiguity about that part. Okay, but pandemic is a threat. So I would say quite naturally, as people who've been in the uniform, the health aspect is a core, domain, the way our lifestyle is, the way we look at fitness, the way we do our, take care of, yearly medicals and take care of, the personal, look after various environments. It's all very finely tailored towards making sure that the combat capability and efficiency is never compromised, correct? Fitness is a very, very important issue. So in that context, also the living areas, the way we work, cleanliness, the health, environment is all at a level which is completely different from how rest of the country lives. And that contributes to a better, safety, better health, and a better performance. So in that context, I'm sure the, Army, Navy, and Air Force, and even the Coast Guard, they would have taken their precautions and given that kind of a protection to their personnel, and not compromising on the daily duties that we do, the work that needs to be done. So in that context, I think it's a brave approach to any problem that how we deal with is what manifests itself in the way we tackle problems. That's one. When you retire and you become a veteran, that same culture animates your work. So we both are there, we continue doing our work. We don't take precautions. And then as a person who's been in the military service in uniform, following procedures, instructions, safeties, abiding by rules is a second nature. It's written in our DNA, right? So the government has given instructions, take care of yourself, maintain social distancing, wear your mask, take care of your health. And I think all of us follow that. Right. So in that context, the veteran community is very active. I mean, we are in multiple groups of WhatsApp. We keep talking to each other. And we do, most of us are doing, taking precautions. We advise each other. But, you need to interact socially in terms of talking to each other. That is important for mental health as well. So we do that quite well.
So I think actually the Armed Forces Veteran Officers Association, which we are a part of, also has kind of risen up to the challenge, and we are technologically, getting used to the Zoom meetings. We are meeting more often on the platform.
That's right. See the amount of, activity, thanks to, Air Marshal Vartaman, they've organized so well, so many, events are there, and that keeps your mental faculties fairly, active. It's very important for us in this, when everybody is locked down, at least you're interacting with each other, talking to each other every week,
Yes, the word that we use in the armed forces is this morale, so how we keep that morale up. So I guess
that's right. So families are aware of it. So we play our roles quite well. Certainly, there are some people who've been affected. We've lost some people, but that's across the country, like it happens everywhere else. Uh, certain amount of losses will be there, but I think you need to take that in stride and look forward to the future.
Yes. So the second question that I have for you is this whole NBC, like we used to talk about when we were in the armed forces, the nuclear,
Mm.
biological, and chemical warfare. It has been serious and real since the World Wars. Okay. Now with all these technological advances that are happening, so what are the steps that the Indian Armed Forces is, undertaking to be prepared for this kind of a contingency, sir?
We've been working on NBC, nuclear, biological, and chemical issues for quite some time. Particularly ever since we've become an nuclear weapon state. So we've focused on that area of preparedness and building capacities. Correct. That's one. But the rate at which science has developed, the rate at which new capabilities are developing, it also has a flip side to those capabilities. While those inventions, innovations contribute immensely to society's development, the flip side of that is in the wrong hands, they also can become huge dangers. So biological and chemical warfare issues is internationally, I think it's come under control. There are various conventions and India is party to all of that. So there is a monitoring, there is a very clear, prohibitions on, lethal chemical storage issues. There's an international monitoring committee, so that's under control. But biological area is still an undefined domain, you know, and that's where this pandemic comes into it. So there is one accusation that China's, experiments in the laboratory has actually spilled out, and they've realized and they quickly, gathered themselves to fight it, but it's gone across the world. That's one issue. Okay, it may be true, may not be true, but it actually gives a potential for what you can do with biological agents. And that is, it is a very, very nebulous and a wide area, and warfare is changing. The recent Azerbaijan, two small countries which went to war, they were at the top end of, new dimension of warfare. Correct? And therefore, warfare is going to change. The biological, dimension of warfare is a cause for concern, and we need to work on that. Absolutely.
Yes.
That's an important area. Absolutely.
Yes. So I know the kind of different things that you're doing with various organizations, various committees. You are part of expert committees and involved with a lot of things related to the different services. In fact, I'm also I keep seeing your posts on the Peninsula Foundation, and I think they're doing some great work under your leadership. Going beyond this, NBC, I just want to know what are the current initiatives that have been taken to bolster the defense services preparedness for the future years?
Well, one is, of course, the very combat preparedness of the military in terms of force structure, in terms of weapons, in terms of technologies, correct? And that is a continuous process. You have to monitor what's happening elsewhere. You have to monitor what's happening in your threat environment. Our adversaries are, very clearly China and Pakistan. And Chinese have gone ahead in technological breakthroughs in a big way, and therefore it gives us even more reason for us to be very, very focused on looking at what kind of threat dimensions are emerging. For example, the UAV has become a different dimension altogether, and it's going to change very rapidly over the next 2 decades, even more. Earlier we used to actually imagine that the man fighter can get replaced by a fully automated system. We've only looked at it from another novels, science fiction kind of a thing. And then started accepting that, yes, some element will come, but still the manufacturer will not go away. But beginning to get doubts that, the rate at which it's progressing, artificial intelligence and, the integration of these new technologies could actually transform the way force is applied, the way nations fight, the way war is conducted, and how leaderships will now take decisions could change drastically by, let's say, 2050 timeframe. If you want to now appreciate that and change and prepare your armed forces to tackle that kind of challenges, and we are going to be one of the pole powers, we are already one of the pole powers, and China is going to be at the top end, and it's going to pose even a bigger threat to us. And if you're going to take on all those issues, you need to concentrate on creating those capabilities within the country. So while the government says "Make in India," Atmanirbhar Bharat, etc., I think we need to go more deeper into understanding what it needs to be done. There needs to be a national strategy. I've been saying this for a long time, even in my report that I submitted. National strategy must calibrate how we need to develop leaders in the military, how we need to imbibe technologies in the military, how we need to create technological base in the country over a 20-year strategy, and we need to stick to it. Unfortunately, that is the problem. Our consistency has never been our virtue in terms of national policy making. I hope that changes now, and that's the biggest challenge as I see it.
So, and coming from you, sir, you being a fighter pilot and part of TACP and a test pilot and all that, I think it's more relevant when it comes from you, sir, saying that, I mean, we need to upgrade yourself in spite of all that you've done. I mean, it's amazing. So I wanted to know also, so you told about the defense preparedness. I just wanted to know, in terms of these youngsters, like you said, so we have been involved in, kind of motivating this younger generation as a role model. What do you feel are the skills and abilities that the younger generation should have if they have to be part of this process of making this nation a significant part in world affairs? What should they have?
Well, one is, let me first, on the outset, put down one very clear, observation from my side is having interacted with young graduates, towards teaching them on policy research. I'm quite happy because there's a lot of, energy in them looking for a guidance, and they're willing to learn, and there's a lot of interest being shown, some of them, lots of them, that's a good sign. They need to be given avenues to actually develop like that. That's one. Second is, of course, we are in a world that's changing rapidly in terms of technology, terms. It's a digital world. It's a artificial intelligence world. So you can't say it is somebody else's an expert's job alone. Everybody in the current generation and the future generations will have to be savvy with digital world. We'll have to be savvy with artificial intelligence. We'll have to be savvy with understanding how technology trajectory is progressing there. And this is an area that we need to concentrate in the context of our education, the context of creating institutions, the context of actually making our people aware as to how the rest of the world is moving so rapidly. And it has a lot of implications. It has implications on security, it has implications on national power, it has implications on governance, it has implications on leadership, to be able to communicate. Social media, you all know. I mean, you are dealing with it day in and day out. So how do you deal with and how do you remove the fake news, and how do you actually create perceptions in the right way? Leadership is extremely important. And I think that's one single area that I would actually put my finger on. Create the right leadership to lead India into the 21st century as a leader. That's what I would.
I think that's a brilliant note, sir. In fact, sir, I think to a large extent, when I speak to the youngsters also, I tell them, you guys have missed out on something that we experienced. I mean, we had a great time outdoors. We were playing games and we were on streets and we were learning leadership on the road, while you guys are doing it only in the armchair. So now we also come to a stage where we are also learning digital things. So though it was not part of our lives when we grew up. So I think we are probably a little more, at an advantage because we had both, an experience of both, So I guess the youngsters probably lost out on that particular aspect of it. But I guess they will kind of, pull up their songs.
What you're doing is fabulous work, because the moment you give them that, motivation, energization, and experience, they will leap off. That's all you need to do. Give them a platform to leap off.
Yes, absolutely. So this whole generation and the span of attention and all that, so we need to keep this video short. But nevertheless, I think probably there's so much that we can discuss with you. I think we can make 10 episodes just with you, sir. But having said that, this last question that I have for you, sir, is do you have anything that you feel you can send as a message? Because we've been involved in contributing towards their learning and growth. If you have a message to these youngsters, what would that be?
My advice to the younger lot is choose your avenue of your career in a line that in which you have passion for that work. And second is, of course, you need to understand certain fundamentals with respect to being a good citizen, is that every citizen has a duty to protect the country, and therefore look at serving some time in the military in whatever form that you can. That's one. Second is, understand it is not enough to just focus only on your engineering or medicine or whatever it is. You need to know more about, your region's history, your own language, your own culture, some mandatory knowledge, which is all about liberal education issue, is that fundamental knowledge is essential to be able to grow up well as a good citizen and to be able to take leadership positions and take decisions correctly. This is an area that I would say is an important focus that needs to be done.
Thank you so much, sir. I think it was a beautiful, I mean, I think it was too short. I feel there's so much to talk about. I'm glad that I could, kind of have your presence. I know you're traveling and you're in Bangalore. I'm very, very happy that you could join us, sir. And thank you, sir. We'll definitely be in touch for more activities together. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Unni, can you hear me?